Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I often get asked how to eat when TTC. How should I eat when I'm trying to conceive? And I'm always trying to impart the importance and the connection between sugar and fertility. If you have a diagnosed metabolic issue like insulin resistance, PCOS, type 2 diabetes, or even pre-diabetes, you need to understand how to manage sugar and balance sugar in your body before you start trying to get pregnant. This will surely pave an easier and more straightforward path to pregnancy. But that's not the only people who need to be considerate of what's going on with their blood sugar in their body. Everyone that is trying to get pregnant needs to understand the connection between sugar, blood sugar, glucose, and fertility. And in today's workshop, I'm going to be sharing the Quit Sugar Masterclass. This is such an important workshop if you are TTC, if you have unexplained infertility, because there could be a connection with what's going on with your metabolic factors, aka your blood sugar, your glucose, your insulin, and what's going on with your fertility, aka estrogen, progesterone, and things like that. And so I wanted to share this workshop so that you, everyone, those with the diagnosis and those not, have an opportunity to learn how to quit sugar. And it's not all sugar. Not all sugar is bad. And we'll talk about it in the workshop. But to quit the sugar that is getting in the way of you getting and staying pregnant. And as a reminder, the Fertility Blueprint is the Get Pregnant Prep program that you need. It helps you unpack what to do, the habits to implement to balance your blood sugar naturally, eliminate cravings, ovulate better, but also to heal your gut, optimize your liver, and lower the stress and inflammation in your body, which all means that you get and stay pregnant this year if that's what you want. And as a reminder, I'm Bianca, fertility diet and lifestyle coach, professionally trained chef, and holistic nutritionist. And I do just that. I help people get and stay pregnant, but do it in a way that honors, supports, nourishes, and warms your body from the inside out so that you feel good in process to baby. So I hope that you enjoy the Quit Sugar Masterclass. I'll see you next time. I'm so excited to be doing this workshop because, well, everyone can take some value in quitting sugar. And I will say that when I say quit sugar, I don't mean quit sugar forever, like you can't eat bread and you can't eat pasta, but this is really about understanding how sugar behaves in our body, how sugar makes us behave, how sugar manifests in like withdrawals from sugar and all of these things so you can understand how to take in sugar and still enjoy the food that you eat without it being like detrimental to your health, because you can have both. I'm a firm believer in that. And so today we're going to be talking about the effects of sugar on your body, good sugar versus bad sugar, how to quit sugar, and recipes and supportive foods. And the thing that, I also want to say that is, when we eat sugar, we feel good. It is something that is very pleasurable, and I'm a fan of pleasure. So I'll say that outright. But when we are talking about the hold that sugar can have on us and how we taste and how we feel in our bodies from day to day, understanding all of these 4 bullet points can really help you feel better, like look better, all the better things. And that's what we want. Okay, so I'm Bianca. If you didn't know that already, I am a lover of sugar. I am like a reformed sweet tooth. I used to have like 5 tablespoons of sugar in my coffee every morning. I don't have that many anymore. I'm also a chef. I'm also a wellness educator, which I mean is probably how you came about to me. But, like I said, most importantly, I'm a person that had to get a hold of my own sugar issues and my own sugar addiction, I can say it, because it was causing me to have like yeast infections. It was feeding, the parasites in my body that were making it so that I had terrible eczema. And understanding how to consume sugar, but also how to reduce the sugar that I was taking in and to work on cravings and things like that was how I was able to put my eczema in remission. I mean, I'm the first to say that when I start, maybe backsliding on some of my good habits, my eczema comes back. And so if you're here because you have PCOS or eczema or any of those things, maybe you're just here because you want to give up sugar. But if you are here because of any of those things, reducing your sugar intake is going to impact that condition positively. I don't care what anyone says, it just will. So, I mean, all that to say is I get you. I understand where you're coming from. I understand the vibe. I understand that, look, you can be a wellness educator and still have a sweet tooth and still have to work on it. And so I completely understand how hard it is to give up sugar, how delicious it is, how useful it is in the kitchen. And so we're going to cover all of that today, because I'm going to show you how to have a delicious life while also still, reducing your sugar intake and feeling the health benefits of that. So how does sugar affect your body? Everyone, to a degree, there's some universal truths about sugar. But when you eat something that is sugary, high in carbohydrates, it releases into your body really quickly. Your body releases insulin. And this is a hormone produced in the pancreas. And insulin is simply there to help you stabilize your blood sugar levels. So I recently did a video on YouTube and one on TikTok, they both go together, talking about that drug Ozempic, because I'm like obsessed with it. I just think it's so interesting of how far things have come medically and pharmaceutically. Nonetheless, I always say to people, if you are taking something like Ozempic, you need to be supporting your pancreas, because it can lead to pancreatitis and all of those things. And people say, why? It's because when you are talking about how sugar of any kind affects your body, or any drug that stabilizes your blood sugar, you're talking about insulin to some degree. And so if you are eating too much sugar and you are having, all of these blood sugar responses, your pancreas feels that because insulin is involved in that mix. If you are someone who is diabetic, pre-diabetic type 2, that is, you might notice that your pancreas is just, not great, because insulin is always having to be in the mix when it doesn't necessarily need to be. Nonetheless, when you are discussing anything to do with blood sugar, so a pharmaceutical that stabilizes your blood sugar, foods that cause your blood sugar to go up and down, regardless, you're talking about insulin, and you're talking about a hormone, and you're talking about your pancreas. And one thing that I always say is that the body is a holistic system. You can't, do one thing and expect it not to have a trickle down effect. And so what we eat doesn't just affect our gut and, our small intestine and our large intestines, the things it touches. It also affects our pancreas. It affects the hormones in our bodies, because insulin is a hormone. When insulin is off, cortisol is off, and then our sex hormones are off. So sugar affects the body in so many different ways, and it's generally like a ripple effect. Another thing about sugar on the, enjoyable side, you could say, is that it releases dopamine and serotonin. These are our feel-good chemicals. That's the sugar rush. That's the beauty of sugar, quite frankly. That's what makes people addicted to it, because you get addicted to that feeling you get when you eat something that's sugary and pleasurable. That being said, on the backside of that, if your blood sugar spikes and then it drops and it dips, it causes the exact opposite. So it's a sugar crash. So you go from high to low, and you're tired, you're brain fogged, you're irritable, you are hungry again, and very quickly after you've just eaten, you are just not your best self, quite frankly. No one is. So it's not just you. And the thing about sugar is it's not very dense, in a sense that sugar has 16 calories per teaspoon. And that doesn't seem like a lot, because it isn't, in a sense, but it adds up really quickly, and it doesn't offer you anything nutritionally. There's so many other things that you're going to get 16 calories from. You're going to get fiber, you might get protein, you might get healthy fats. Like you're making the most of those 16 calories. When it comes to sugar, it's just sweet. It's empty in every other sense of the word. And so that's why it adds up quickly, because you're not getting anything from it. So you still need to eat on top of that. You still need to, get calories from other places that have more value. And so it adds up quickly. so many things about sugar. It affects your insulin, so it affects your hormones. It affects your mood because it involves serotonin and dopamine, but it also just like involves your waistline. It just does. I'm not really a person who focuses on like weight as necessarily a barometer of health or not. But when you are at where your body is naturally healthy and then you're adding in a lot of sugary things and you see that going up, that is a sign and like of concern. You know, weight is not a sign of concern, but gaining weight as a result of something like eating too much sugar is. So, sugar detox symptoms. So, I feel like I have to give you fair warning about what's going to happen when you decide to go on this sugar detox journey, because you're going to feel some things initially. And these are all temporary, but you're going to get a sugar withdrawal headache. If you are someone that eats a lot of sugar in a day, you're going to feel it. Just straight up. Be ready for that. There's ways to mitigate how you feel. One of them is to just like be off and like sleep through it. I don't think that's like approachable and attainable for many of us in, you know, the real world. I remember when I gave up coffee, which is very similar to giving up sugar in terms of how you feel. And I don't know if I recommend this as far as like a gut health thing, but we're not really here for that. And you can think about that like after you do this, but I also took like Advil the first like 3 days just because the headache was killing me. Like I felt like I had COVID. So just fair warning, you're going to feel it. If you are really tied to sugar, you're going to feel tired. You will be irritable. Things will get on your nerves more so than before. I do recommend that if you have like a weekend in your life, start at the top of your weekend. So you at least have 2 days of feeling terrible if that's what ends up happening to you without having to like be in the workplace. I just feel like that only adds to it. Loss of focus. You might not be able to sleep really well because you're going through all of these like detox symptoms. Like sugar, you truly detox off it, and same with coffee, which is why I like liken the experience to one another. It's very much like getting off of a drug. I mean, it's probably a lot more intense on a drug, but they're very similar in the fact that your body has to withdraw from these things initially. And you're going to be thirsty as hell. That's one that I didn't expect, but you're going to be very, very thirsty. So make sure just to hydrate yourself. We'll talk about this more when we get to like food, but adding things like lemon, you know, vanilla, like citrus to your waters at least makes it feel like it's sweet, even though it's not sugary. So that can be like a nice bridge, but we will get to that. Physically, a sugar craving is a sign that your body needs more energy and carbs, like just from a physical perspective. Like if you are like, oh, I'm craving carbohydrates, it could be one, you ate that food previously or your meal previously without thinking about your glucose. So your body went into a spike and a dip and it's craving carbs and it's craving energy to get up out of that dip. But it can also be like emotional, prompted by stress or something like emotional that happened. And that's what, you know, me and I'm sure other wellness educators mean by when we say like sugar is very much like a drug, how people turn to alcohol, you know, other drugs like cigarettes, you know, sugar, anything really that is used as a crutch is because it pacifies painful things sometimes, and it releases and it like reduces stress. And so understanding why you are drawn to sugar can also help you release some of those, you know, shackles, if you will. Sugar is also an upper. It kind of, again, to liken it to a drugs. It can temporarily give you energy, make you feel good. The thing is when you take out sugar, you kind of have to, one, accept there's going to be some rough days when you start, but also find things that are going to replace that feeling with an alternative, because then the detox portion of giving up sugar is going to go a little bit more smoothly. That isn't possible for everyone. And again, for some people, you're just like, I'm going into it. I'm just going to raw dog it. Okay. Like, power to you. But I would recommend like, you know, exercise or going out with friends, or maybe you make a really delicious dinner and just like eat 2 servings of that. I don't know. But finding ways to reproduce that good feeling is going to help you in the sugar detox vibe. Okay, understanding natural sugar versus added sugar. And look, natural sugar is, found in fruits, vegetables, dairy products, fructose, lactose, things like that. I like highly encourage you to keep eating fruits, keep eating things that, and from a blood sugar perspective, you want to make sure that you eat the whole fruit. Smoothies are great. They're not as good as just eating the whole fruit because, again, when you blend things up or you juice things with juice, you completely remove the fiber, so it hits your blood like that. So if it's sweet, it's no bueno as far as blood sugar is concerned, which leads to cravings, all the kinds of bad things we don't want. So juice has to be consumed like a dessert, for instance, so like after meals. But with smoothies too, a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm eating the smoothie, it's the whole fruit. When you blend up the smoothie and you sort of like pre-chew and pre-digest that food, and your body doesn't have to do any of that, you still run the risk of having a glucose response, like a blood sugar spike, and dip really quickly because it goes in very easy to hit your bloodstream and easy to digest. Those sugars also tend to hit your bloodstream pretty quickly. So when I say keep eating fruits and vegetables, I mean keep eating the whole fruit as much as you can, because that's the best thing that you can do for your glucose and your body. Fiber is great. We need it. Not just for balancing our blood sugar, but for keeping our, stomach populated with healthy digestive flora, for making sure that our large intestine and our small intestine stay clear and free of debris. So we need. Also, go wild with milk. I mean, I love actual dairy. I'm not a big fan of oat milk or any of those alternatives because of the sugar response that happens in the body. So again, I like dairy products full fat. You don't want, because while milk is great, it has lactose in it. And so milk, when it is milked, it has fat, it has protein, it has sugar in it that's just like naturally occurring. When you take the fat out, so when you skim it out and create skim milk or 1%, what you leave is just the sugar. So you leave the sugar water. And you don't want that because that's like drinking oat milk. You might as well just drink oat milk if you like that. Don't drink skim. If you're going to go back to dairy, and I highly suggest you do from a blood sugar perspective, I would drink no less than 2%. I personally drink whole milk. I love it. It's great. In Canada, they call it homo milk. I don't know, it's homogenized, but I feel like calling it whole milk is a little bit better. So there you are. And when I'm talking again about, fruits and vegetables and whole milk like cheese and things like that, I'm not talking about those when I'm talking about sugar. Foods that have naturally occurring fibers, which means they're slowly absorbed into your system. So the whole food, having the fat present along with the lactose in the milk. When you consume foods that have all of those things present, so the sugar is essentially cloaked in fiber and antioxidants and minerals and all these other things, and fat in the case of dairy, they're not going to spike your blood sugar like added sugars are going to. And so we want to be staying away from the added sugars. And these are the ones that are added to food by manufacturers or what you might add to a recipe. And so, I often say, and again, I'll talk about this more when we get to the food part of this workshop, like the recipes part, but I feel like if you cook at home and you make food at home, there is such an element of control that you can see how much is going into your food. And so you can logically look and be like, that is too much sugar to put in something. Whereas when you buy food that is made by other people, so packaged food, or you go to restaurants a lot, or you eat a lot of takeout, you are not able to see how much sugar they're putting into it, how much salt they're putting into it, how much fat they're putting, what kinds of fat they're putting into it. And so, I mean, while that's kind of off topic, really, it just speaks to the point of when we talk about added sugars, where it starts to really pile up is in things that you did not make yourself. And so, people are adding white sugar, brown sugar, corn syrup, molasses, even the good ones, maple syrup, honey. I love those. I love raw honey. I love Manuka honey. I love maple syrup. I'm in Canada, so I mean, I feel like I have to. It's my Canadian duty. That said, even those are sugary things, and those will spike your blood sugar if you eat too much of them. Like maple syrup is great, but if you're putting 3 tablespoons of maple syrup in your coffee every morning, we're starting to negate those good things by what the sugar is doing to your body. And so there's over 50 names for sugar. And so you need to be making sure that you're reading your labels thoroughly. That's if you are eating a lot of packaged foods, I don't recommend it. But if you are, and there's some of them are hard to avoid, like some things are in packages, but I'm talking about packaged prepared food, not like pasta that's in a box. Like that's a packaged food, but not what we're getting at. But things that are pre-prepared. You need to be reading the labels of these things just to even get a gauge of what's in them. If there are lots of easy to understand ingredients, or even better, and I'm seeing a lot of labels do this on personal care products and on food products, is telling you what certain things mean, because there's just ways in labeling that it's like you can say something and it's like it just means like salt or just means like coconut oil or something like that, but they use a different word for it. And so understanding how to read labels, but understanding that when you read labels, what to look out for, what not to see, or what to just be mindful of is going to help you tremendously. And so sugar goes by so many names: maltose, sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, anything ending in O, so OSE, it's probably a sugar thing. Molasses, cane sugar, raw sugar, syrup, honey, corn sweetener, fruit juice concentrates. This is what gets people, because people will see on the front of the label made with real fruit juice, and then they'll go to the back and they'll see fruit juice concentrate. Don't let them get you down. Don't let them catch you slipping. That is sugar and you don't want it. And so you need to just know that that's what they're calling it. And so when you're reading a label, if you see sugar names more than once in a food, I mean, put it down and run the other way. Find a way to make it yourself or view it as a treat, but it shouldn't be something that you consume a lot of because it has a lot of sugar in it. You can also see how much sugar is added to a food by reading the nutrition facts label. Again, I'm talking, this is like North America. I'm not sure what the labeling is like in the UK or in Europe or in South Africa. I know a lot of people are from South Africa in this community. But if there is a label, understanding that there's total sugars and added sugars, and if those values are a lot, you need to start making like decisions. If a lot of the things that you're putting into your, basket when you go grocery shopping has a lot of added sugar or total sugar, or you see, maltose and you see also high fructose corn syrup, and then you see fruit juice concentrate all on one label, and you see a lot of those foods in your basket, you need to start reevaluating what you're eating and what you're shopping for, because that's where you're getting a lot of sugar. 1 gram of sugar contains 4 calories. So if a product has 15 grams of sugar per serving, that's 60 calories just from sugar alone. That's not even any other ingredient. That's just the sugar. And that's zero. You get nothing from that. You're just getting sweet. You're just getting flavor, and maybe even like some dastardly health issues. So that's a lot of calories in a day to just forfeit for nothing. So you want to spike a glucose spike. You want to spot a glucose spike from the label. And so here's how to know whether something is a go or a pass. If you are viewing it as like, this is something that I'm going to be eating a lot of, and it's going to be in my, my diet. It's a part of my diet. So there should be 1 gram of fiber for every 5 grams of total fiber. So if the product has 25, and look, I'm not great at math either, so I'm not trying to split your head open, but this is like a crucial read your label math, certainly when it comes to sugar. So if a product has 25 grams of total fiber, there needs to be a minimum. If there's more, great, I mean, hooray. But there needs to be a minimum of 5 grams of fiber to ensure that this is a glucose-friendly choice, meaning if there's 1 gram of fiber for every 5 grams of fiber in that food, when you eat it, your body is digesting that fiber, and fiber coats the lining of our stomach and makes food sort of, absorb slowly. So our glucose goes up in a nice steady, pattern. If this math works out in the food that you're eating, you're going to get that nice steady glucose curve. If there's 0 grams of fiber and there's like 10 grams of total carbs, or 1 gram of fiber and like 16 grams of total carbs, you're going up, but you're going down from that food. Just again, awareness. I'm not here to tell you what to put in your cart. I'm not here to tell you what to eat, but I'm here to help you understand how to make the decision with your brain. So you also need to be really aware that there is hidden sugar everywhere. I mean, it's like all those shows, like The Mole, where you have to like find who's the traitor. it's like this. You got to find the trade. You got to find the thing that you need to keep out in your foods because they're hidden everywhere. So cake and ice cream and cookies and, all of that kind of stuff, those are obvious. But there's plenty of other places that you could be missing or likely missing. And certainly if you rely a lot on convenience products, because even if you're like, I'm going for the healthy option, I'm picking the lighter version, I'm picking the reduce this, they can still be packed with added sugar, artificial sweeteners, corn syrups. One thing I want to remind you of is when something says reduced sugar or low in sugar, what they're probably saying is this doesn't have a low sugar content, but it's like this compared to all of the other products in our product line is the low sugar option. But they don't tell you that all on the label. They just say low in sugar, now low in sugar. And it's like, it's not a low in sugar item. It's just compared to the rest of their product line, it is low in sugar. So they can say that on the label. Again, marketing trying to catch you slipping. And so knowing that means that now, instead of just like trusting that, they're telling me it's low in sugar, amazing, you actually turn it around and actually look and see, does this have low sugar value or low sugar response because of the math that we just did or whatever? Because honestly, marketing is meant to make you feel good about your purchase, even if it's not good for you. And so you have to be able to see around that. That's what I'm helping you do. Okay, so top foods to watch out for: whole grain cereals. I remember being like addicted to Vector when I was like younger. It's like that sport cereal. And I was addicted to it when I was younger and I played sports. And then when I stopped playing sports and I was eating a ton of Vector, guess who put on weight? Guess whose skin was breaking out? Mine. Why? Because Vector is so high in sugar that if you aren't playing sports, you're not burning off all of that. You're not using that glucose. It's sticking around your body and causing problems. And so whole grain cereals, granola bars, granola bars, that is the biggest fleece of the 90s and early 2000s as far as lunchbox is concerned, because we had those in our lunchboxes thinking we were doing something healthy for ourselves. Our parents thought the same thing. No, granola bars, unless you make them, they're probably full of sugar. Pasta, not me being, making it very suave, pasta sauce. So pasta sauce or pasta sauce, you will find a lot of sugar in pasta sauce. Why? One, you'll find that there's more sugar in the pasta sauces that are, there's like garlic and onion in them. And here's why. When you cook something with garlic and onion and you leave it to sit, it can develop a bitter flavor over time. By adding sugar to the mix, you mask that. So when you open the jar and you pour it in the pan with whatever you have, and it's so fast and so convenient, all you taste is like, yummy tomato sauce. But they added a ton of sugar to that to make sure that you didn't think, ooh, bitter onion, garlic. So pasta sauce, beware. Low fat salad dressings. Why? When you take the fat out, you got to add something else delicious. So they're adding sugar. And that's one thing to always be mindful. If something says low fat or low sugar or no sugar, ask yourself, what did they put in instead? When something is low fat, it's usually high in sugar because you have to replace that feeling, that vibe, that sensory response. Fat, when we eat fat, gives us the same like, ooh, that we get when we eat sugar in a lot of ways. And so when you take fat out, you got to add sugar back. And it's like when you see low sugar, it's like there's probably some sort of sweetener involved, but we'll get to that. Store-bought smoothies, full of sugar, just full of sugar. And also, this isn't to, disparage them, and they do have their place, certainly if you're on the go and you find a good one that's low sugar and all of that. But often the benefit of smoothies and juices is that you consume them relatively fresh within like days of them being pressed or blended, simply because that's where the nutrient value lives. So again, don't look at something like a store-bought smoothie and think like, oh my God, amazing, like this is like a healthy thing. It's like, it might not be as healthy as you think it is, and to waste your sugar and you sort of like, again, forfeit all those calories for something that's not even good for your health when you thought it was, I think it's a waste. You're better off eating something or, smoothieing something better. Yogurt. not plain yogurt, but low fat yogurt. So like those 0 calorie yogurts, you want to stay far away from those. Again, any low fat or no fat dairy, I'll stay away from it. And then also the yogurt that has like the like fruit on the bottom. I don't care what they say. That fruit is sweetened, hyper sweetened. So, and again, if they say it's low sugar, what else are they using? Because they're not just using like a unsweetened fruit puree. Like they just simply wouldn't do that. I don't think the grocery stores would let them because it probably wouldn't sell a second time because people's palates are very conditioned to sweetened foods. And so again, buy plain yogurt, cook down berries of your own and make your own sweetened or flavored rather yogurt as opposed to buying it, because that's where you're going to give up a lot of sugar as well. Milk alternatives, almond milk, coconut milk that's not like legit. Like, wow, when you open it, you're like, this is milk from a coconut. Those have a lot of binders. Those have a lot of things that, again, have to make up for the fact that this food is largely created like by man's hand, in a sense. A lot of manufactured foods have a lot of sugar in them, and milk alternatives, oat milk, almond milk, some of the milks still haven't been like bastardized. Like macadamia nut milk is still pretty legit. Cashew milk is still pretty legit, but a lot of the milk alternatives, and coconut milk is an asterisk simply because there's some really good brands. I'm a Caribbean girl. I know they exist. I see them all the time, but the ones that you find really easily and conventionally, like in your like mainstream grocery stores, some of those tend to be, again, have a lot of like sneaky sugar. Salad dressings, again, lots of just hidden sugar, because especially the salad dressings that are, again, low calorie, low fat, those have more sugar. And they're also just like not as good, but that's my opinion. Canned fruit, because often they're stored in a syrup, which baffles my mind, because it's like, it's already fruit. It's already being preserved. It will keep that inherent sweetness, but they usually add syrup to it. So you don't want that. Bottled tea, so your Nesteas, your Lipton Brisks, your Arizonas. I think I pretty much covered the industry there on like bottled teas. But anyways, you want to Lipton, you want to stay away from those because those are going to be very sweetened, unless it says unsweetened. If it says unsweetened and it's legitimately like unsweetened, like there's not even like there's no sweetener replacement, it's just unsweetened, go for it. But if it's bottled tea and it's like peach or lemon, no, you don't want it. Ketchup, which sucks because I love ketchup. I love a lot of condiments. And I mean, ketchup and barbecue sauce are just like really like high offenders, and ones that people tend to use a lot. But a lot of condiments tend to have a lot of sugar in it. So again, just be aware. And again, if you're having a barbecue, you're having people over, you want it to be great, you love this barbecue sauce, but it has a lot of sugar in it, go for it, because it's not like you're eating it every single day. You're having a barbecue, enjoy your life. But this is what you want to look out for in the everyday, I consume these multiple times a week kind of foods, because reducing those is going to eliminate the amount of sugar that you take in. But something that's really crucial to remember about like a sugar detox or working to, have a better relationship to sugar is that the more you consume it, the more you want it. And so finding these like sneaky little places to remove it means that ultimately you're going to start to want it less because you're having it less. But if you're having it in all these sneaky places, it's going to continue to have a grasp on you. And that's what we're trying to work through. So here are some strategies for quitting sugar. Now, the first one is you want to cut out white sugar, and that's obvious. This is the one that's added to foods. And when I say white sugar, I'm actually talking about like all of the, like places that you would get white sugar. So if it's like Wonder Bread, or if it's like a muffin, a cookie, a cake, like things, especially prepared ones. So you can't be sure it wasn't made with like a ton of white sugar or a ton of like just sugar, because this is a simple sugar that, quickly hits the blood, quickly raises our glucose and insulin levels and causes all kinds of problems like immediately. That's the thing about sugar. It tells you right away that you overdid it, like, or you didn't do it right, or you just had too much sugar. You get tired, you get irritable, you get sleepy. You don't, if you do that consistently, it's going to start to affect your cycle. It's going to start to affect your skin. Like, it's one of those ones that hits fast. And that's why I love talking about quitting sugar, because it can have such a meaningful impact quite quickly on so many other areas of your life. Cutting out sugary drinks. And like when I say sugary drinks, I'm not just talking about pop. I'm talking about coffee too. Like if you're someone who has a coffee and, or you say you have 3 coffees in the morning, but you put like a table and a half of, or a teaspoon and a half rather, of sugar in it every time, that's a lot of sugar in a day. That's also a lot of a sugar reaction in your body in a day. Certainly, if you're drinking that coffee without thinking about your glucose in mind, always have food before you have coffee. You should know that if you're coming here in the community from the community, but if you are a guest on this workshop, know that you should always have food before coffee, because coffee with added sugar on an empty stomach is like putting coffee or sugar intravenously into your body, and you don't want to do that. So not just the usual suspects of sugary drinks of like, again, pop or Gatorade, coffee, wine, alcohol, those convert to sugar in your body. So thinking about those beverages as well. And don't think artificial is the answer. So swapping out sugar in favor of an artificial sweetener is not the vibe, because what you also want to be doing, again, like I said, when you find all these sneaky little sources, you are mindful of how you consume your coffee in the morning. You cut out white sugar. You are, you know, you're releasing your body, you're like starting to wean yourself off that sugar. You're starting to retrain your taste buds. You're starting to have like an actual physical impact on how your body experiences sugar. If you are always just turning to artificial things, you are not really doing any of the retraining thing. You're actually not like reducing your sugar problem. You're just like shifting it to something else. And often with these sweeteners, so the one thing about sugar that is like a good thing is that our body actually knows what to do with sugar. When we have sugar, our body's like, okay, especially when you have sugar in something that has like fiber and protein or whatever, and it's a part of a mix, our body knows, okay, I've had enough. There's an off switch. But with sweetener, it gives you the sweet without any of the calories. So your hunger isn't satisfied. Your body is like, what's happening here? I don't know what's going on. Like, it's sweet, but there's no calories. It confuses you, but you also are craving more. You crave more. So you often notice people who give up something like Coke and then drink Diet Coke. Now they drink like 3 Diet Cokes as opposed to just having the one. And it's because you can have several Diet Cokes. You can have several of those like thin station bags of like 100-calorie cookies that have just like sweetener in it, because your body never gets the signal. Your brain never gets the signal to shut off because it's had enough sugar. So artificial is absolutely not the answer. You want to actually work to retrain your body and your tongue and your physiology to a different way of experiencing sugar. Now, protein and healthy fats, I love them. I mean, if there was a committee or like, a place where you could just go and edify these things on like a mantle, I would absolutely be there, because I love protein and healthy fats. They're so important for hormone production, good skin, good mood, good sleep. I mean, good blood sugar balance, everything. Healthy fats and lean proteins. And when I say lean, I don't mean like skimmed of every single fat they have, because something like a chicken breast, if it's cooked, so say a chicken breast is put into a sauce that's quite sweet, that will still raise your blood sugar because there's not enough fat in the chicken to be able to mitigate some of that sugar response. So not all proteins are created equal, but you also don't want a fat that has like, or a protein that has a ton of fat, because it's just not a good culinary experience. But also, again, it's about balance. But healthy fats and protein both keep you satiated. They keep you energized, but they also prevent a blood sugar spike. So I always say to my private clients, I say in the membership community, that you never want to eat a naked carbohydrate. And that means that you don't want to just eat a piece of bread. You don't want to just eat a bowl of pasta. What you want to do is you want to have pasta with like a tomato, vegetable, chicken sauce in it. And you eat the pasta that way, because the protein and the healthy fat is going to prevent the glucose from rising too crazy, because it cloaks it and it makes it doesn't hit the bloodstream so fast. That being said, also, if you are craving sugar, have something with fat in it. That sugar craving will go away. And that's the beauty of like Whole Foods and the power of Whole Foods. The one thing I will say, and one tip that I will give you, is that if you want to dramatically affect how your blood sugar behaves all day, meaning you don't get cravings, you aren't feeling like you need a second coffee, or you need a bagel or a donut or something like that, like your body isn't making you feel like you need it, is to start your day with a savory breakfast. It's going to set the tone for your blood sugar all day, so you don't start with a spike and a dip. Because once you have a spike and a dip in the morning, you are forever trying to recover from that. So you're having another coffee, you go up, you go down. Then you're having like something like carby, because that's what your brain feels like it needs in order to get that energy back. And then you have a spike and a dip, and your day is just a wash because you're just trying to scramble out of that initial spike and dip with all these other things that are causing you to have a spike and dip, because that's like your brain getting involved and not understanding. But when you have a savory breakfast every morning, so eggs, bacon, avocado, sourdough toast, having full fat yogurt with a little bit of cottage cheese and some, raspberries as well, in addition to, because keeping your blood sugar stable is not just about what you eat, it's about how much you eat. You need to make sure you're eating enough. But this is going to make sure that your blood sugar goes up steadily and stays in a nice curve, so that when it comes to, mid-morning or lunchtime, you're rational. You don't have ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. And once ghrelin is involved, I mean, you have no deductive reasoning at all anymore because you're just hungry. But when you balance your blood sugar, ghrelin very rarely gets involved in the mix. And that means you make better decisions, and that you have more fit from a physiological place. You don't crave sugar as much because your blood sugar is balanced. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with the emotional element. That's a whole other side of things. And since I'm not a therapist, I can't get into it too much. But I will say that once you deal with some of the physiological responses that you have to sugar, it makes it easier to understand what the triggers are from a mental perspective. But again, I'm not a therapist, just, my kind friend advice. Okay, you also want to eliminate simple carbs. Like I said before, like white sugar and simple carbs, they're very much the same thing. So pasta, bread, chips, simple carbs, and they serve as just sugar for the body. So again, not all bread. Sourdough is amazing because it's fermented. And so that is going to digest differently and have a different impact on your blood sugar. There's also sourdough pasta. But again, if you are having these things, like I love chips, I eat chips like all the time. I love them. But when I eat chips, I will have apple cider vinegar before, because that can mitigate the spike on my blood sugar. If I'm having pasta, I always have apple cider vinegar before. If I'm having bread, I usually put like either butter or peanut butter or like nut butter on it, bacon, vegetables, cucumber, whatever. It's just never on its own. So even if it's a good carb, I'm still employing the tenets of good blood sugar balance to it, because I just know that I don't want anything to do with the simplification of carbs in my body. So I feel like one really good thing to do, especially when it comes to carbs, because they are so prevalent in our lives, they're really filling, they feel filling in the moment, but because of what they do to your glucose, they're actually not. Because generally you're hungry very quickly after you eat something super carby, and it's because of what it does to your glucose, or you're tired. So it's like a whole thing. But understanding where these foods are in your diet and then replacing them one by one makes it so that it's not super overwhelming, especially if you are someone who eats a lot of them in a day or in a week, because just trying to reform the whole thing is going to be a lot. And sometimes you have to do some trial and error, especially if you're looking for, a different type of sourdough. Some sourdoughs are really strong, they're really sour. Some are really nice and really light. Maybe you experiment with making your own. And so it's figure out the switch for one, find it, love it, find another one. And in within 3-ish months, if you are a heavy carb consumer, you will see that you have completely changed and shifted your pantry to another direction, but it didn't feel super overwhelming or expensive. So, you're welcome. And so again, some simple carb alternatives that aren't, understanding how to swap a carb for another carb is to find some ways to add vegetables to sort of bulk up. So again, I'm not one of those people that says, just have a full plate of zucchini noodles and it's with pasta sauce and it's like pasta. No, it's not. That's not spaghetti and meatballs. That's spaghetti and zucchini noodles. And as a chef, I feel affronted when people say to do that and call it bolognese. It's not. But What is if you take half of the pasta you were going to have and you add half of that volume back in zucchini noodles. It's really nice. Again, the noodles mix in with the pasta, and you then added vegetables, more vegetables. So you're getting vegetables, you're getting protein from the pasta sauce, you're getting carbs from the pasta. Again, pasta isn't bad, but it's how you consume it. And this is, again, another way to sort of like start to move toward better habits around sugar. Quitting sugar is not fully realistic, but I had to name the workshop that because it's a really compelling title. But quitting sugar completely is not necessary in order to, rid yourself of any ailment that you have, or also just to sort of like rid yourself of the shackles that, sugar has on you. But subbing half zucchini noodles or half spaghetti squash with actual pasta ups the nutrient value, ups the fiber value, but it ups the flavor value versus certainly if you were just having the spaghetti squash in it or something. But it also still feels, healthy, and it's better. And vegetables are complex carbs, so they keep you feeling satisfied for much longer than the simple kind. So if you just have pasta on its own with cheese, I mean, better than nothing, because that's like got some fat in it, but it will, spike your blood sugar, and you'll be hungry very shortly after that. But if you add things to it, you add a really good meaty pasta sauce, you add some zucchini noodles, that's going to sustain you longer and keep your blood sugar stable so that your meals actually keep you fuller, longer, and satisfied. You also want to know what good sugars are. So the types of sugars that you don't have to get rid of are the ones that are in foods: fructose in milk, fructose in fruit, lactose in milk and milk products. And so these get a pass from me fully as long as they're consumed in their original form. I said that before, but as long as you eat them whole food style, I'm in. I mean, love it. I love it for you. You like it, I love it, as long as it's the whole food. Fruit contains an amount of sugar that is in better proportion with the amount of fiber and other nutrients in it, because nature is perfect. Nature knows what it's doing. Nature made it so that we could eat it and be healthy from it. So these other nutrients are mitigating sugar's harmful effect. They're actually making it so that it gives you beautiful energy levels, makes you feel good, and you get the serotonin boost, but you're also getting fiber, you're getting protein, your blood sugar is stable. And so fruit in its original form, it's from Mother Gaia. It's from nature. It's made perfectly the way that it is. So eat it that way. It's when we juice it and when we dry it and we do all these other things to it that we start to mess around with what it does in our body. And then again, to satisfy a sweet tooth without resorting to like refined sugar again, look into your spice rack. Cinnamon, vanilla extract. Like, I love vanilla. If I had the means and sort of like the even wherewithal, I would start like a vanilla company, because I love vanilla so much. One of those Costco vanillas that are huge, someone bought it for me and they said, oh, that'll last you 6 months. I was like, this will last me 2.5 months, maybe 3 months, because I put vanilla in everything. I love it because it heightens. If there's already a natural sugar present in something and you add a little bit of vanilla, it brings that sweetness up. So it tastes sweeter to you, even though you didn't add any sweetness to it. That's a chef tip. The lemon zest, again, it also adds a brightness and a dynamic element to savory foods that and it's sweet, but it's not sweet like sugar, but it adds that sweetness. And so adding lemon, adding lime, orange can be beautiful. And cinnamon, I mean, cinnamon is excellent for your blood sugar. It's a cumulative effect, so you need to eat a lot of cinnamon in a day. But sprinkling it in your pasta sauces, as opposed to using a lot of sugar to make a pasta sauce pop, using cinnamon, it's like a Greek trick and it's so good, is the vibe. So cinnamon in your savory dishes, try it. You will be surprised how good it is. Okay, so some non-food tips for quitting sugar. So mindset is key. Quitting takes time. You're going to need at least a 5-day detox period for your brain to adjust and to crave sugar and develop new healthy habits. And that's why I always say those first 2 days, at least, if you can put that on a weekend or on a time when you don't have to work, perfect. Because the first day, you're just going to feel weird. You're going to want sugar really badly. You're going to be moody about it. All of these things are normal, but understanding that this is part of the process and just stay the course is great. But it's hard to do that when you're like waking up at 6, getting ready for work, you're commuting, you want that sweet coffee in the morning. Like, no, you don't want to do that. And so quitting does take time. Planning helps, certainly, but your mindset is going to be very key in this. You are bigger and stronger than sugar. That's something that like you have to think about. Like this is an inanimate thing. It does not care about you. It does not hate you. It does not love you. It is nothing. And so detaching from any feelings that you have toward it can really help with the mindset element, just being like, this is just like a nothing thing. I don't need it. But also understanding that in the first 5 days, you're going to want it so bad, just helps you be prepared. So you also want to keep yourself distracted. And so you can also make your sugar withdrawals a little easier by doing something. Have something fun to do, plan a day out. And again, this isn't what I'm talking about like day 1 or 2 when you're gonna want to be like in bed, but adding in a workout, going for a walk when you crave sugar, getting endorphins and serotonin. So when you work out, you get those happy hormones as well. So adding in a daily workout will not only be a good distraction, but it's going to give you that natural high that your body is craving in the place of sugar. Even if you just like grab some weights and pump some weights when you feel like really having a sugar or something, because that's going to help, again, release some of those happy hormones to circumvent some of those cravings that you're having. But again, we're going to talk about some recipes that are going to help, that are going to just help you as far as creating the right framework physiologically so that you can get over the hump. The next is you want to reward yourself. You're doing something so hard, like giving up sugar is so hard. That's why a lot of people don't do it. It's the same with coffee. There's so many people that are like, oh my God, I drink too much coffee. And they say that until their last breath because it's just so hard to give up. They never will. And so you have to reward yourself, but your reward has to look different now because often we tend to reward ourselves with things like sugary things. If you're giving up booze, you have to reframe what you're rewarding and what you're celebrating with, like all of that. And since sugar is often the reward, you have to find something to reward yourself that isn't that. But this is exciting because now you can reward yourself with something chic and self-care related, because you can't reward yourself with sugar because that's just so counterproductive to this. So whenever possible, you're going to want to make your food at home. I think I've said it so many times. When we're talking about added sugar, where you are going to blow the lid off it is if you are eating a lot of packaged food, prepared food, takeout, restaurant food. Those people are your cooks. They're not your doctors. They're your grocers. They are not your naturopaths. And so if you want a chef, I know it can feel daunting, but the best way to cut out sugar and to even understand what your sugar intake is like and where you're getting your sugar is to start making food for yourself. Because once you start making food for yourself and retraining your taste buds to taste differently, and initially things that are sweetened enough won't taste sweet to you because you're retraining your taste buds. That being said, when you cook at home and then you start eating things out, you'll notice how sweet things are. But the only way to do this is to start making food at home. And so the recipes in this workshop are going to help you quit sugar in those first crucial 21 days. So let's talk about it. So this is a collagen creamer. And so this is what I make. And I put this into my coffee. And so coffee, even without the presence of sugar at all, causes our body and our muscles to release glucose as energy because coffee is energy. But if that energy is not used, then what happens is we get that spike and that dip. And that's why people are often reaching for many coffees if they don't drink their coffee with that in mind. And so even if you add like a teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of sugar to coffee, which is already doing that to you, you can imagine the blood sugar response. Now, when you add something like this collagen creamer, it's cloaking that response and that glucose that's coming out into your body with fat and protein. You're getting protein from the collagen, you're getting fat from the butter. There's a little bit of maple syrup, but just 1 teaspoon. And this is a big, volume. Like you're not going to use all of this. You're going to just like use this as you need it. And so for 1 teaspoon of maple syrup over many servings, again, not that big of a deal. But what that is doing, the maple syrup is, or honey or whatever, is completely negligent because you have fat from the half and half, you have fat from the butter, and you have collagen from the, or you have protein from the collagen. And so this is what you should put into your coffee. And if you are someone that absolutely must have coffee and you cannot have it on an empty stomach, this is the creamer you want to have in it, because even if you haven't eaten anything, this is going to make sure that that coffee doesn't affect your glucose negatively. So make it home, last in your fridge for, 4 to 5 days, but generally I don't really keep it for that long. Just because I drink a lot of like warm beverages certainly now, and I love coffee in the morning. So and I like my coffee like cafe au lait. So I use a lot of this in mine in the morning, but again, it's your discretion how you like your coffee, but this is the creamer that you want to use for the best blood sugar response in your body. Okay. Vanilla, orange, chocolate, fat bombs. So these are amazing because if you find that you crave sugar in between meals, or that you get really peckish for like something sweet, mid-afternoon, mid-morning, I want you to make these balls and have them on hand, because again, they have fat from the hazelnut, fat from the peanut butter. If you don't want to use crunchy peanut butter, you can use crunchy almond butter. You can use a seed butter. I'll leave that in your court. You can sub out as you feel, but there's also protein from the collagen powder. And so and because we're using dark chocolate also has magnesium. So when you crave something sweet, you crave something chocolatey, it's usually your body craving like magnesium. And so adding that is also going to help with that sugar craving in your body. So make these, have them on hand, take a few with you as you go through your day. And in between meals, if you feel like, I always crave something at like 3 p.m., have 2 of these balls and a cup of unsweetened tea, and I promise you will start to really feel the difference in how your energy levels are. Also, bone broth. Love bone broth in between meals. Again, starting your day with something savory, so eggs, bacon, avocado on sourdough with like a cup of bone broth on the side, is not only going to have a really big impact on your gut health, but it also has a ton of protein. There's collagen. There's a lot of really good amino acids in there. And so what I like to do is make something that I call a sippin' broth. And that's what this is the base of. And then you can add any herbs to it. You can add any seasonings to it. You can add sauteed vegetables or roasted vegetables that are left over. And so again, just on its own as a sipping broth, heat it up in between meals. Bone broth, again, is going to help you bridge that gap. Why? Because consuming something that is fatty when you are craving, and has protein when you are craving sugar, is going to eliminate that craving right away. And so in the beginning, what you need to do is remind yourself. So if you are like, oh my God, if I don't have that piece of chocolate or that piece of candy, I'm going to kill someone, go get some bone broth or go have a vanilla chocolate fat bomb. Because even though before you have it, you feel like this is not going to satisfy that craving, once you have it, the craving will go away. Also, something to note from a mindset thing, if you have the bone broth and you have the chocolate almond fat bomb and you still want that thing, have a little bit of that thing, because that might just be like, okay, I want to eat the flavor. And you also don't want to deny yourself pleasure, but because you had the bone broth, you had fat, you had protein, or you had the chocolate fat bomb, you had fat, you had protein, eating something sweet after eating those, and a little bit of it is probably not going to kill you, but knowing how to circumvent or get in front of those cravings and stop them where they stand is having something that has fat and protein in it. And bone broth is an option if you like warm, sippy things. And the chocolate fat bombs are great because it's like a sweet. It's like you're eating a sweet, like a dessert, but it's not having an impact on your blood sugar at all. Now, these buttermints were my go-to in the beginning because having one of these, so if you are someone that gets crazy blood sugar responses, so like you are sleepy after meals, like you feel like you need to eat an hour and a half after you've eaten, and it's like a crawl to your next meal, there's something blood sugar related going on for sure. And that might need a little bit more addressing. But first, you want to just start stabilizing your blood sugar in between meals, and buttermints are the way to do it. And so it's really just unsalted butter. I add vanilla protein. You can add chocolate protein. You can leave the protein out if you want. It's not necessary, just boosts it, but you can leave it out. And then it's flavored with vanilla, cinnamon, and peppermint. And what this does, if you are someone who gets really flagged energy and just like all the bad blood sugar symptoms in between meals, every hour or 30 minutes in between meals, you want to have one of these buttermints. Just suck on it. It'll melt in your mouth. Like, I leave mine in the freezer. These are one thing, like if you're taking them to work, put them in the freezer, put your name on them, kind of thing. And as like it will start to, again, you get that sweet vibe because it has the peppermint extract, there's some vanilla, it's like, this tastes nice. You're going to then, your blood sugar is going to start to stabilize because, again, you're giving yourself fat and you're giving yourself protein, and you're getting that sweet moment kind of because you have, the protein powder or something in there. And over time, for like in about 21 days, during the length it takes for your body to sort of like release the habitual tie to sugar, you will start to notice that you don't get hungry in between meals and you make better choices at the meals that you have. But that's also something worth mentioning, just like as an aside, that a lot of sugar cravings come from not eating complete enough meals. So eating a full breakfast, eating a full lunch that has, protein, fat, good carbohydrates, like you eat a lot of them and you eat a lot of those things, because often we start to crave just because our blood sugar gets low because we didn't feed our fire enough. And so that's also something to consider too. If you find that no matter what you eat, how healthy you eat it, in between meals, you just cannot seem to stay awake or keep up, look at not just what you're eating, but how much of it you're eating, because you might not be eating enough. And lastly, broccoli, beef, and feta frittata. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And like I said, it's how you set the tone for your blood sugar fire throughout the day. And so this is great because you can make it ahead. You can cut it into portions and then just take it, if you are someone who has to get up really early, or you can take it out and microwave it, put it in the oven, and they're just like, you make it once and you can eat off it for like 4 days. And that's so amazing. And so those are the recipes that are really going to support you on this journey. Again, it really is about understanding, the physiological things that happen to you when you crave sugar, when you eat sugar, but also how to get in front of those. And then also the mental, emotional side of things too. But I truly believe once you get the physical element sort of like dealt with and you understand that, the emotional piece is easier to sort out. So before we get into the Q&A, and I will answer all of the questions that were submitted to me, I just want to thank you for being here. Obviously on replay, live folks, I appreciate it so much, because I really think that when you do something like this, you take time out of your life to watch something like this, you're really saying to your subconscious mind, like, I'm ready to make that change. And I believe in that kind of stuff, like, so deeply. You have to decide. And I think if you have watched this to the end and you are at this point, your commitment and your time commitment is just like, a nonverbal decision of being ready to give up sugar. I'll tell you, as someone who was like, I was in the sugar shackles, friend, and my life is completely different. I don't break out before my period. I have painless periods. I have like even moods. I sleep really well. I don't crave sugar, at all, really. Like, I'm not that hungry in between meals. Like, all of these things that I just thought were like, oh, I'm just like a hungry girl, or oh, I'm just like, I just get hangry. Like, I always thought that was just my nature, but it turns out it was just the response my body was having to the food and the sugar that I was eating. And once I got control of that, I was like, oh my God, am I not crazy? Anywho, I digress. Thank you for being here. And if you have any more questions or you want to inquire about private one-on-one coaching with me, send me an email, reach out, we can work something out. So there were some Q&A questions, and I want to make sure that I get to them. Okay, so someone asked, I eat out a lot, and I realized that that is one of the reasons why I take in so much sugar. What can I do when I eat out to reduce the amount of sugar that I take in? And do I have to stop eating fast food altogether? So you don't have to stop eating fast food altogether. you just can't eat fast food as like your main foods. Like if you're a person that is eating fast food like every second day for lunch, nah, that's not it. You got to be doing less of that. But if you're just like, oh, on a Saturday, me and the kids are out, we're knocking about, we want to go pick up McDonald's, get some Happy Meals, live your life, make sure you have apple cider vinegar with you, drink that with a straw before you eat your like carby fast food meal. And like, it's all good. You know, that's just like a part of that 80-20. So that's a part of the 20% of living. Fine. But if you eat fast food a lot, you are getting in so much sneaky sugar, it's crazy. So I would start just like cooking at home. One of the things that I would suggest, if you are like, oh, I don't want to cook at home, I'm just like, I don't want to do it, get an air fryer. An air fryer is going to change your life, and it's going to make you be able to make vegetables taste good, meat tastes good. It's very hands off. Put on a seasoning rub, throw it in, walk away, go do what you need to do, come back, and you have like crispy, delicious, yummy meats, you know, vegetables, potatoes, like you name it. You can make anything in there. So get an air fryer, get yourself set up for meal planning. So I'm not sure if you are a guest or if you are actually a member of the community, but if you aren't a member of the Glucose Glow Up community, the meal planning masterclass that is in there and available for everyone. It's also available outside as well, just in the Glucose Glow Up community for I think $11 or $10. It's a good place to start to understand how you meal plan with success, because it's more than just about recipe selection. It's about setting up your space. It's about, you know, understanding how to make meals and plan meals. And I used to be a private chef. I private chef for years. I own my own catering company for years. And so I know how to plan meals. I plan like tens of thousands of them. So I give you all my tips in there. I would highly recommend that for you, because if you are just hell bent on continuing to eat fast food as like a main part of your diet, you're never going to get control of your sugar. And that's just me being honest with you. So that's my suggestion. But you need to start making more food at home. That's just like at the foundation. So I hope that helps. My next question is, I have PCOS that is insulin resistant, and I know that I need to quit sugar, but my doctor didn't really give me any help. He just said getting rid of sugar will help with your PCOS. So what do I do? So you're here, so that's great. Watching this workshop is certainly going to help. I would also, again, just start to understand the mechanics of not just what sugars to eat, what sugars not to eat, and like just eliminating sugar. That's a great place. That's also great. But I also find that can be really unrealistic to say to yourself, I'm never gonna have sugar again. Instead, it's about understanding how to eat the foods that you love as well within, you know, PCOS and insulin resistant PCOS like framework. And I just don't think that people with PCOS have to live their life without the foods that they love for the rest of their life. I just don't believe that's true. But I do believe that you need to reduce the impact that sugar is having on your body. And so reducing the amount that you intake is absolutely going to have an effect, but also understanding that, you know, if you are eating your meals, having salad first, having apple cider vinegar before your carby meals is going to do wonders for your glucose. And so those are places to start. Again, in the Glucose Glow Up community, there's the blood sugar workshop, which is like what the whole community is like built around. And that's where I teach you all the hacks, all the tools, all the tips for living a blood sugar friendly life and eating everything that you eat, drinking everything you eat with your glucose in mind. And just to tell you that like people have lowered their A1C, people have had their doctors say it's like miracles of the healing and the reversals of things that they've done in being a part of the community. So it's, you know, I'm not just hyping myself up. It's actually a good place to be. So I hope that helps. But if you have PCOS, you can still eat sugar. It's just like the habits around sugar absolutely have to change. Okay, next question. I see a lot of athletes and they eat super sugary things before competition, in parentheses, race, game, etc. If I work out after I eat something sweet, does that make it okay? That's actually a really good question. It kind of does, in the sense that sugar has to be used or else it's stored. Use it or store it. And if you store it, that's when you get excesses. It affects your hormones. It's all kinds of things. But if you say have like a chocolate bar and then you go play like, you know, 90 minutes of soccer, it's fine. Truly. I mean, your body is using up all that sugar, using up all that glucose, and plus some, I would imagine, if you're playing soccer for 90 minutes. But you can't, but I also would just, again, it's not just, oh, I'm going to use up the sugar so I can eat it. It's also about making the food that you eat like play a lot of different roles. And so if you're just eating like, a chocolate bar before your race, yes, you're getting sugar, but are you getting fiber? Are you getting vitamins? Are you getting minerals? I know for some athletes, you don't want any fiber or any of that before a race because it just will affect your performance. And so maybe a chocolate bar is best. I don't know. But yes and no. That's like an asterisk question, only because you're not necessarily going to have a negative sugar response because you're using up that glucose, but it's just not like you're not making the most of the calories that you take in. But that being said, if you like, every second Saturday, your friend takes you on like the most arduous hike of your life and you want to have a super sweet coffee like you used to before that hike, I mean, go for it. That's harmless in my opinion. Because again, it's about 80-20. 20% of the time, live your life, do what you want. Because if you don't, then you'll start to rebel, like from a psychological point, and you'll just like start doing things and be like, I'm doing it, I don't care. So you have to give yourself some enjoyment, some pleasure, or else what is this life about? We only get one spin around the sun, so I mean, make the most of it. Okay, last question. I find that if I eat something super sweet, I get really, really tired in about 30 or 45 minutes, no matter what, even if I eat something else with it. Why is that? Do you eat the sugary thing first? If you eat the sugary thing first and then you eat all the other things, you will absolutely still have all the negative sugar responses, because if you're eating a meal and there's like a sweet dessert element, that whole eat the dessert first, don't. Bad advice. That title was meant to sell books. Instead, what you want to do is always put your dessert or your sweet thing after your meal, not hours after your meal, but like treat it like dessert. Like I ate my main meal and now I'm eating my dessert, whether that's a sweet coffee, whether it's a sweet alcohol, like an alcoholic beverage that's sweet, or maybe it's wine because those convert to sugar as well. Maybe it's a cinnamon bun. I don't know what floats your boat. I'll let you find that for yourself. But if you have something sweet and you're having something sweet with your meal, have it at the end. Like let that be the last thing you end. End on a sweet note. Speaking of ending on a sweet note, that's all. That's all she wrote. So I hope that you feel really empowered and like you have the understanding, the knowledge, you know how to read labels, you know what to expect when you start to try and start on this journey of quitting sugar. And I hope that you feel really well equipped to go down this path. Give yourself a few days of grace of just feeling like absolute garbage, because that's just like a part of it. And then give yourself an additional, like 20 days to really commit to this. And even though it feels hard, even though you want that, chocolate bar and you have the bone broth instead, if you make those tough decisions and those hard decisions in those first 21 days, it will be a habit at that point, and it won't be a tough decision anymore. It'll just be a habit, something that you just do. And so I hope I've helped open that portal for you, because I know what understanding sugar and getting my sugar under control has really done for my life. And I hope it does the same for you. So have a wonderful day. If you are a part of the community, thank you for being here. I love you so much. If you are a guest, thank you for being here as well. And I hope that this helps. And if you have any questions about the Glucose Glow Up community or working with me privately, you know where to find me. See ya.